Welcome to our conference tournament predictions for college baseball 2024. The regular season has now pretty much concluded for most conferences. Some that don't have conference tournaments are still playing a few more games, but for the majority of conferences, we have finished everything up and now we're into the conference tournament. So, super exciting times. We're going to try to predict the top six conferences, the winner of the tournaments here. It's going to be not the most likely results, as it's very tough to figure out which teams are going into their conference tournaments. I mean, fully healthy for one thing, but also just motivated to win the whole thing. If you are already set in pretty much your position to either host or be a top 8 seed, it's tough to know if these teams are really going to go in all guns a-blazing. But here we are. We're going to start things off with the top conferences and go from there. Starting with the SEC. I feel like especially with the SEC, it's really just any team can win this. With Hoover, it looks like the weather's going to be pretty nice, but might be jinxing it there. There's always going to be rain that pops up, even if the weather report says nothing of the sort. But for me personally, I'm going with Texas A&M. I feel like they have something to fight for. They haven't had the best offense recently, and this is the perfect time to get things going again. So I feel like that's maybe the motivation they need is just the offense has been playing not the best for a team that has just been lights out the entire year, have struggled a little bit recently. For maybe some of these other top SEC teams, they don't really have those worries. There are a few that have their downsides, but Texas A&M, definitely a team that needs to turn things up, and maybe this is the perfect opportunity for that.
Yeah, this was a really tough tournament to pick here. I was going back and forth, but my pick is going to be Kentucky. I just think the tournament setup kind of fits their play style of just being messy, aggressive. There's a lot of high scoring games, a lot of arms being thrown that don't see a lot of innings as teams try to save arms for the actual tournament, and just things get messy. The one thing that worries me is that their first game matchup is going to be the winner of Georgia LSU. And so you could just get handed a top 10 team in your first round of the tourney. So that could be a really tough matchup. But I do think the tourney fits their play style, and so that's who I'm going with.
Definitely. And now moving to the number 2 conference, we have the ACC. Especially the past few weeks, that conference has just been a jumble. A bunch of teams that are top 10 caliber, just up and down around that. We had like 6 or 7 straight ACC teams a few weeks ago in our top 25. So just super tight race there. I feel like NC State is a team that, if you look on paper, they beat all the best teams, but for some reason I'm not going with them. Going a little bit off book here. I think Florida State, from what we've seen from their pitching staff throughout the year, they have been very good. It's going to be tough to keep things going, but for some reason, I just have a feeling Florida State has that ability to make a deep run here in their conference tournament.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I'm also not going to go with NC State here. Like you said, even though they've beat all the best teams, I'm not sure I necessarily like them in this tourney or in this format. If I was going with my same strategy as the SEC, I think I'd pick Clemson. But this time I'm going to go with a team that I think has a lot to prove, and I'm going to go with Duke here, who's kind of slowed down at the end of the year. A team that could really benefit from a deep run into this tournament to get back into hosting consideration. I think if they win this tournament, or at least make it to the championship, a good chance they're hosting. So, going to go with Duke here. I think they're very capable.
Yep, definitely. There's a lot of capable teams in the ACC to make a run like this, but yeah, next up we have the Big 12. I feel like the easy pick here is Oklahoma. They've pretty much dominated the entire conference for the entire year. Their only bad weeks seem to be outside of conference play. So that would be the easy pick, but I'm going to go with maybe the second hottest team out there, and that's Texas. Team that's surprising me recently. We had them obviously ranked the past few weeks, but this Texas team was down in the dumps for a very long time, and to be able to turn that around, I feel like you just got to commend the coaching job overall, and for a team to be able to turn things around like Texas has. They have a lot of losses against like Q4 teams, but they have really turned things around recently, and yeah, I think they're gonna have the ability to make a deep run in the Big 12 conference tournament.
Yeah, I also really like Texas for this one, but I think I'm going to go with West Virginia here. We've seen that offense get clicking again since JJ Weatherholt has been back. They're a team that RPI is kind of in the middle there at 33. That's almost fringe to where they could get in hosting consideration if they run through this tourney and win it. And so, going to go with another team that potentially has something to prove and could end the year on a hot stretch. Is it benefits to have one of the best players in the country, and I'm going to bank on him getting hot this week.
Yeah, he definitely has shown up the past few weeks. He's put up some absolute tanks out there in West Virginia, so definitely have a pretty good chance of making a run there. Next up, we have the Big Ten. I feel like looking at the overall resume, it's hard to look past Nebraska, even though they didn't win the conference. Just the overall caliber of the team, I think, is just better than any other team in the Big Ten this year, even though there are some teams like Iowa that maybe preseason were projected to be pretty good. I think Nebraska just has looked the most complete out of the teams in the Big Ten, so I'm just going to stick with them. Not overthink this one.
Gotcha. I think I'm going to go with Illinois here since they did win the conference. Similar to you, this is my version of not overthinking it. Don't necessarily have a lot of faith in these teams, so I'm just going to go with the one who finished on top through the regular season.
Yep. And next up, we have the fifth best conference this year, which was the Sun Belt. Surprisingly, they've a lot of competitive teams, even though they might not have a host out there. A lot of teams that are going to be really, really solid 2 and 3 seeds and could make some big upsets in the tournament. I'm going to go with Southern Miss here. I think just their overall resume has been really, really impressive, and they have started to look really good recently. I just overall Southern Miss is a team that the start of the year, obviously, I think a lot of people were down on them, but they've just consistently proved that they're still a good team. Last year they were really good and they lost a lot of pieces, but now they're slowly proving that they are still one of the better teams in the Sun Belt, and I think they're probably going to get hot at the right time here. They're always a team that's a hard out, and I feel like this is the time for them to really step it up.
Yeah, I thought about taking Southern Miss here too. Also, was thinking about Troy since they're on the fringe RPI wise. It's obviously a very capable team with some of the series wins we've seen out of them, and a team that's kind of fighting for their postseason lives here. But I'm just going to go with the champ. Going to go with Louisiana here. I do think they are the just overall best team in the conference, proven by that record, but just have passed the eye test as well, and going to take them to double up on the championships here.
Nice. And now finishing things off with our top 6 conference tournament predictions, we have the Pac-12, the final Pac-12 tournament, at least for now. Who knows what happens in the future, but there's going to be at least a few-year gap before the Pac-12 comes back, if it does at all. And yeah, there are a lot of teams. I feel like this conference doesn't, obviously Oregon State is the number one team by far, but I feel like even though they are that number one team, they do have their weaknesses, and the pitching is one of those reasons that maybe they don't win this whole thing. And because of that, I'm just going to go with a team that has been super hot recently. Their offense has just put up so many big numbers, and that's Arizona State. They just faced Texas Tech, even though Tech is probably not a postseason team unless they make a huge run in the conference tournament. Arizona State put up some big numbers, and for them to be playing in Arizona still, they still have the heat behind them. I feel like, still being able to be near where their university is located will definitely be beneficial, and Arizona State, definitely a scary team since they do need to prove it to make the postseason here. So I think Arizona State, definitely a team that could take this thing.
Yeah, they have been playing extremely well. I'm also going to go outside of the top 2 here. I'm going to go with Oregon to defend their conference tourney title from last year. I just think this is a team that's very capable. Only finished a game behind Arizona, who won it, and won the series over Arizona. Split 2-2 with Oregon State as well, so they've played very well against those top teams. And just conference tourneys get messy, and I'm going to go with a team that's done it before and just has that experience.
Nice. So those are our conference tournament series predictions. We'll see if we get any of those right. There's a lot of teams to choose from out there, but we might get a few. Definitely will make our overall records look a little bit worse, But at this point, it's just about the point total that we're tallying up, especially with our preseason predictions also being added to those at the end of the season. We'll see how things pan out. But be sure, I mean, it's going to be an exciting week of baseball, obviously, so keep an eye out for that. We're going to have our recap of everything, conference tournaments next week, so stay tuned for that. And until next time, we'll see ya.